Hi, I'm Bonnie Kempke. Welcome to my studio and welcome to Quilting on a Thread. So today I'd like to talk with you about how to adjust the tension on your bobbin. And I'm going to talk about both the drop-in bobbins and the front-loading bobbins. And the reason why I'm going to talk about both is because a lot of people seem to think there's a huge difference in adjusting the tension on the bobbin. And there really isn't. I've been sewing for 55 years, and so I do not use a TOA gauge because I find that I'm pretty good at adjusting tension the manual old-fashioned way. And when I did try to use a TOA gauge, it seemed to complicate the task for me. So I just preferred to do things the way I have always done them. That works very well for me. So here we are in my work area, and I hope I've got you a really good view of both the drop-in bobbin case and the bobbin, and the front-loading bobbin case and the bobbin. You're going to want to have a handy pair of scissors, and the only thing you really need and must have is a very, very tiny flathead screwdriver. Now we're magnified here because I want you to be able to see everything. So as I mentioned in my opening, I'm going to be demonstrating setting the tension on both the drop-in bobbin and the front-loading bobbin. And the reason why I want to do that is, again, a lot of people think there's a huge difficulty in setting the drop-in bobbin tension over the front-loading bobbin. There's not that much difference. There are some things to consider, but it's not that difficult. Okay, so the reason why I have this so well magnified is I want you to see the parts. So for a front-loading bobbin, you're going to have what I call the mechanic screw. The reason why I call this the mechanic screw is because this screw holds the mechanics of your tensioning onto your case. So you don't touch that screw. All right, so you set the tension with this lower screw, and always remember it's right to tighten tension, left to loosen tension. I'm going to take my little screwdriver and I'm going to really rack up the tension. So now that we know that the bobbin tension is way off, we're going to take our bobbin and load it into the bobbin case so that the bobbin rotates in the proper direction. Then you just pull your thread into your case and get it into its appropriate position. Now you can hold your bobbin and pull that, and you see that you're moving in the right direction. The idea for proper tension is to take that thread and be able to lift the bobbin case up with the bobbin still moving freely. Obviously this tension is too loose. So we go back to those screws and we realize that the tension is too loose. So for loose tension, we need to tighten. So we rotate that screw to the right. Since I know this tension is way off, I'm going to go ahead and go about 1/4 of a turn. Usually I do 1/8 of a turn or less, but I really ratcheted this tension for you. So we lay that back in our hands, pull the thread, and see it's still too loose, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to go another 1/4 of a turn. I never recommend more than 1/4 of a turn at a time because you could go too far and then you have to come back and you have to keep backtracking yourself. This is still too loose, so we'll come back. So now, this time it's exactly right, because as I pull that thread up, the case stays in my hand, but the bobbin moves freely. That tension is now right, so I'm going to cut the thread off, and I'm done with that case. So now we come to the drop-in case. On the drop-in case, the mechanics are all inside. So I have to come here and find the end of the tensioning equipment. I rotate it up. That's my mechanic screw. Often in a drop-in case, that's going to be a tiny Phillips. We're not going to touch that screw, remember, coming here. That's your tensioning screw. I'm going to go ahead and ratchet that tension up. I'm going to go in the opposite direction with this one. Before I had loosened, so now I'm going to tighten this one. So I turned to the right to ratchet it up and tighten it. You'll want to drop the bobbin into your bobbin case so that the bobbin will rotate in the right direction. Here's where things get a little difficult. Now you have to find that little divot that the thread goes into, and you have to find the point at which it's going to, your thread is going to pull. And it's usually about halfway between the end of the tensioning and the divot that you drop your thread in. So if we drop this in our palm and we go to pick it up, see, that tension is too tight. So now we come to that tensioning screw and we're going to loosen it a little. So right is tightening, left is loosening. I'm going to go about 1/8 of a turn. It's still too tight. This time I'll go 1/4. Just turn it, and we're going to give it another try. Still too tight. So you keep doing that until you reach a point where you feel a little more comfortable. So we're going to go 1 more 1/4. See, now I went a little too loose. You see how as I'm pulling, the case will not stand up, but the bobbin flows freely. So we'll come back in and we'll nudge it tight just a little bit. I want to go just less than 1/8 of a turn. And there we go. We can even do it from the table. So getting my hand out of the picture, the bobbin will stand up and the thread continues rolling. That's pretty good tension. Once your bobbin tension is set and you're happy with how it works, about 90% of the time, the only adjustments you'll need to make to tension are on your upper tension. But if you change thread, if you change manufacturer of the thread, weight of the thread, and sometimes even the color of the thread, because different colors take different dyeing techniques. But sometimes the dye affects how your tension is going to work. So be open to that, be ready for that. Adjust your tension using the tensioning screw and lay the bobbin in your hand and pull the thread. You want your bobbin case to begin to stand and the bobbin move freely in the case. You don't want it to come off the palm of your hand. That's a tad too tight. So I hope that helps you, and I hope to see you again here on Quilting on a Thread.